Robert Armstrong joins me now. Robert, of course, is with MIT. Thanks so much for joining us. Wonderful discussion there on really, the future of energy. What do we have to look at? Where does everybody have to position themselves? There's a lot of challenges still in the industry. And what do you think the key challenges that the oil and gas sector is facing right now?
I think the key challenge is dealing with the coupled problem of how do you deal with getting more energy to people as economic and population both grow, and at the same time mitigate climate change. Climate change is clearly an issue for the public at large, particularly for young people for whom this is the future. So as the industry deals with how do we provide this energy and how do we reduce carbon emissions, that's a really important problem. The industry has a lot of expertise in carbon capture. So techniques like that, it's a great opportunity to actually remove carbon from the atmosphere, not just reduce carbon emissions from current processes. And I see the industry is playing a key role in that going forward.
And of course, when we look at all of the conferences now for the last while, I also think that this has become, top of the agenda. The industry cares, it wants to do something about it, it is responding, and when some people look at this, it's black and white. It's not that simple. The transition of energy is not something happening overnight. It's going to take a bit of a longer process. It's going to take time, money, investment, but I think it's where everybody wants to go.
That's exactly right. And the industry is a huge reservoir of technology and science expertise. And it's going to take a lot of new science and new technology to get us to where we need to go. You can see the industries here in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Aramco, for example, is a leader in carbon capture technologies. MIT has worked with them for years in developing new technologies. We have worked with them on a new idea for using hydrocarbons in the building industry. So how could you take hydrocarbons and instead of burning them, they're very valuable, why don't you make something really useful with a low carbon footprint, like a large skyscraper? We've worked with Aramco on problems of thinking about how can we use fuels to make hydrogen. So clean fuels that when you burn them in your vehicle, there are no emissions. Or you could use them to support solar and wind so that you can have dispatchable energy whenever you need it. So there's this huge wealth of expertise here that we need to bring to the table to reach our climate and energy goals.
And of course, this is also expertise that is science-based. This is what's also, I think, very important about it. One of the areas, and I was just talking to another colleague earlier who said he's heard more about hydrogen in just the last few days than he has in the last 5 years. So hydrogen is beginning to look like something everybody wants to pay more attention to because it could be, again, part of the solution.
Well, we actually talked about hydrogen maybe 10, 12 years ago. This is back when George Bush was president in the U.S. His first Secretary of Energy, Spencer Abraham, was pushing a hydrogen economy. I think the challenge was then we realized that we didn't have, there are no hydrogen wells to drill. There were not cheap sources for producing hydrogen. There was not a good market opportunity for hydrogen. What's happened since then, though, is the electrification of transportation as we've decarbonized the power sector, so with more solar and wind. And what we discover as a result of that is that these technologies have problems associated with intermittency. And hydrogen can play a very needed role in firming that up with long-term storage. So like a natural gas resource for electricity, I can store hydrogen for long periods of time and use it whenever there's a shortage of a technology like solar or wind. But once you have the hydrogen and you've worked on ways to produce it cheaply, then you can move that over into the transportation sector and address needs that aren't well met by electrification of vehicles, specifically heavy-duty trucking, where charge time would be an issue, carrying a heavy payload of batteries around instead of the cargo you'd like to move around is a big issue in the heavy-duty trucking sector. So we see that as an opportunity for hydrogen, and one that wasn't visible 12 years ago when you weren't trying to electrify those parts of the energy economy.
So it's a very exciting time for the energy sector, but again, very, very exciting time here in Saudi Arabia. This is the first time IPTC has come here, and of course they're all very proud that it's here. How important do you think, too, that it is here? And it's going to stay, I think. They're very proud and very excited at the fact that they're not just doing one, that they've secured a second one in 2 years' time as well. It'll bring a lot of focus and attention to what's going on here, won't it?
It will bring a lot of focus to what's going on here, and there's a lot to show. for what's going on here. And so I think it's great that the expo is here. I think it's going to be a great way to showcase what's in the region broadly, Saudi Arabia in particular, but across the region. As has been pointed out a number of places in the conference, there's the lowest carbon footprint oil and gas in the world here, in the region. But that footprint's not going to be enough to get you to the promised land of a net zero carbon economy. To do that, you need the technology expertise that's here and other places. You need the partnerships between the companies and talent here and those around the world. And I think all of that will make this a very important region, not just today, but in the future.
Super. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robert.